The sun rose high and unashamed across the open plains, stretching its bright arms over the cracked earth and the silver wire of old fences. The sky was endless and pale, a vast ocean of light where nothing could hide. Every rock, every tuft of wild grass, every shifting grain of dust stood naked beneath it. It was a day that stripped the world bare, and her along with it. She walked alone across that openness, her feet bare against the dirt that had long since stopped hurting. Each step lifted a faint cloud, soft and dry, like memory refusing to fade. She was young, early 20s, maybe less, but her eyes carried the exhaustion of someone twice her age. The wind played with her tangled hair, black and sun-streaked, braided in uneven patches that told of nights spent under stars, not roofs. Her dress, once fine suede with careful fringe and stitching, now hung heavy with dust. The edges were frayed, the color faded by time and hardship. Still, it clung to her like dignity that refused to die. She stopped beside a weathered fence post, leaning into it as though it were the last solid thing in the world. Her breathing came rough and shallow. Her tribe was behind her somewhere. Maybe days, maybe a lifetime away. She didn't know anymore if she had left or been cast out. The whispers, the judging eyes, the ghosts of choices she couldn't undo, all had driven her here. The land didn't offer answers, only silence. "I'm filthy inside out," she murmured. The words were small, swallowed by the wind, but true. It wasn't just the dust clinging to her skin. It was the shame buried beneath it. She didn't know anymore if she was being punished or tested. Didn't know if she deserved either. Far off, a rider moved slowly along the ridge, his horse steady beneath the weight of a man who'd long learned patience. Jake Corbett had spent years mending fences and digging out stones that had no business in his fields. His life had been measured in the slow rhythm of hooves and hammer strikes, and somewhere along the way, he'd learned to stop expecting surprises. But when his eyes caught sight of her, a lone figure in the sunlight, motionless against the horizon, something stirred that had been still too long. He reined his horse closer, the animal's hooves crunching softly over dry grass. 10 paces away, he stopped. The woman didn't move. The wind tugged at the hem of her dress and the ends of her braids, but she stayed still, like the land itself. "You okay, miss?" His voice was low, calm, the kind that didn't demand an answer. She turned her head slightly, her eyes meeting his. There was no fear in them, just a quiet fatigue, the kind that came after running too long. "Does it matter?" she asked, voice hoarse as a desert creek bit. "Matters to me," he said simply. The words hung there, clean and unadorned, like fence wire stretched tight. She looked away first, toward the horizon that had given her nothing but distance. He dismounted slowly, his boots touching the earth with a soft thud. His hat shaded his face, but not his intent. He studied her, the blood crusted on her knuckles, the blistered soles of her feet, the way her spine stayed straight even when everything else about her looked ready to fall. "You don't belong nowhere," she said quietly. "Well, not to the land, not with people. I'm dirty, and it's not just the outside." Jake nodded, understanding in his eyes. "We all collect some dirt along the way," he said. "Some washes off, some sticks a while. Doesn't make you less." She blinked, uncertain whether to believe him. "Why do you care?" He shrugged, closing the distance between them a little more, slow, unthreatening. "A cause I knew a man once," he said, "who thought he didn't matter. Someone reached out for him. Figured I'd do the same." Something in her shifted. Not much, but enough for breath to come easier. The wind caught her hair, lifting a few strands like it wanted to remind her she was still alive. "You think I can be cleaned inside out?" she asked, half mocking, half daring him to lie. "I think you're still breathing," he said. "That's a start." For the first time in months, maybe years, she smiled, barely, but it was real. The silence that followed wasn't heavy anymore. It was space, open, waiting. Jake extended his hand. No demand, no rescue, just an offer. She hesitated, then lifted her own. Her fingers trembled when they met his, small and rough against the calloused steadiness of his palm. The warmth startled her. Not just the heat of his skin, but the steady pulse of another living thing willing to share it. For a heartbeat, she didn't feel filthy. She just felt human. The ranch lay ahead, sunlit and modest. Weathered boards, tall grass brushing the fence line, the soft clatter of loose metal somewhere in the wind. He led her slowly along the dirt path, neither speaking. She followed, one step behind, but the distance didn't feel like loneliness anymore. It felt like choice. When they reached the porch, she hesitated. The house was simple but solid, white paint peeling at the corners, a porch swing creaking in the breeze. It looked like it had stories of its own, stories that didn't hurt. "You can come in," he said quietly. She stepped through the door like someone entering a church for the first time. Cautious, reverent. Inside smelled of wood smoke, earth, and something faintly sweet. Corn stew simmered in a pot by the stove. The furniture was handmade, plain but cared for. She hadn't seen a home like this in years, maybe ever. Jake ladled stew into a bowl and set it before her with a piece of fresh bread. "Well, ain't much," he said. But it's warm." She didn't thank him right away. Gratitude was something she'd forgotten how to feel. Instead, she stared at the bowl, steam curling up like ghosts of better days. Then hunger, deep, real, unashamed. One out. She ate, slow at first, then faster. He didn't speak, didn't stare, just sat across from her and let the quiet do the talking. When she finished, he rose. "Well, you'll find water and soap by the back door," he said. "A cleanup if you want. There's a cot in the next room." She nodded once. "Thank you." Later, washed and wrapped in a faded quilt, she stood on the porch watching the sun dip low behind the barn. The air had cooled, turning gold and soft. An old sheepdog limped over and lay at her feet. She smiled faintly, brushing a hand across its head. It didn't flinch. Neither did she. Jake appeared leading a brown mare. The animal's hide gleamed in the fading light, muscles rippling with calm strength. "You ever ridden?" he asked. She shook her head. "Ha ha! You want to?" Her eyes flickered, torn between fear and something that looked like hope. "He whispered." He helped her up, steadying her by the waist. His touch was firm but careful. When she settled onto the saddle, she felt the rhythm of the horse beneath her, powerful, steady, alive. He climbed on behind her, reins loose in his hands, keeping his distance but close enough to guide. They rode along the edge of the pasture where the fence met the sky. The air smelled of grass and sun-warmed wood. The land rolled gentle and wide, every hill like a slow exhale. She let the wind touch her face, closing her eyes as if to memorize it. "You don't need to run now," he said quietly. "I don't know how to stop," she admitted. "You just did." The words hit deeper than she expected. She didn't answer, just breathed. For the first time, the world didn't feel like it was chasing her. The past didn't feel like a chain, just a shadow behind her, growing fainter with each step forward. By the time the sun melted into amber light, they returned to the barn. He helped her down, careful as ever, and let her go without another word. That night, she slept in a clean bed, beneath a roof that didn't leak, wrapped in stillness she hadn't known she needed. Her dreams were empty, but her sleep was full, the kind that heals without asking permission. Morning came soft and golden through the white curtains. She woke to the clatter of tools and the sound of Jake outside. When she stepped into the yard, he was fixing a fence line, sleeves rolled up, eyes focused. "You handy?" he asked, glancing her way. "Haven't tried much." He handed her a hammer, a no better time. She smiled, a real one this time, and took it. Her first swing missed the nail. The second bent it sideways, but the third held. Jake didn't correct her. He just nodded. As days passed, she learned the rhythm of the ranch, feeding horses at dawn, hauling water, mending fences, helping with the harvest. The work was hard, but it felt good, honest. With every sunrise, the weight on her chest lightened. Sometimes she caught herself humming, a tune she couldn't remember learning. One evening, they sat side by side on the fence, the sunset spilling gold across the fields. The wind was gentle, carrying the scent of cut hay and rain somewhere far away. "I used to think I was all dirt inside," she said softly. "Like I'd never be clean again." Jake didn't look at her right away. When he did, his eyes were kind. "Dirt just means you've been walking," he said. "It means you're alive." She looked down at her hands, the same ones that once shook with fear and shame. Now they were strong, steady, capable. "You didn't save me," she said. "Wasn't trying to," he replied. "But you reminded me what saving yourself looks like." She turned her face toward the setting sun, its light warm on her skin. The land stretched endlessly before them, raw, beautiful, and waiting. For the first time, it didn't feel empty. It felt like home. And somewhere deep inside, beneath all the scars and the dust, she realized she wasn't filthy anymore. Not because the dirt was gone, but because she'd learned it was never meant to be shame. It was proof she'd survived, proof she was still becoming.